You know, the entire AI world was basically holding its breath for Gemini 3.1 Pro. But then, out of nowhere, Google just drops this bombshell, Gemini 3 DeepThink. It's their most specialized reasoning model ever. And after I got my hands on it, well, I've got one big takeaway. It is, and I don't say this lightly, the smartest AI I have ever touched. It feels like it was designed from the ground up to solve problems that we used to think were, well, unsolvable. So today, let's just break down what makes this thing a potential game changer. Okay, here's how we're going to do this. First, we'll get into what DeepThink actually is. Then we'll look at the benchmarks it's not just hitting, but absolutely crushing. From there, we'll see how it can take a simple idea and turn it into a physical object. Then, for the fun part, we're going to push it to the limit and have it code entire worlds for us. And finally, we'll tackle that big question. Is this the new baseline for AGI? So let's start with the basics. What exactly is this new model? Because, this isn't just another incremental update. This feels like a totally different kind of leap.
See, this isn't your typical do-everything chatbot. DeepThink is a specialist. It's been laser-focused on one thing, deep, multi-step reasoning. It's purpose-built for the kind of problems that keep scientists and engineers up at night. We're talking advanced science, PhD-level mathematics, and some of the most complex coding challenges you could imagine.
All right, before we get into the really wild demos, we have to talk about the raw numbers. Because honestly, these stats are what anchor all the incredible claims about what this model can actually do.
Okay, so in competitive programming, it hits a 3,455 ELO on Codeforces. Now, if you're not familiar, that's a rating system for coding skill. And a score that high, that puts it squarely in the territory of the absolute best human programmers on the entire planet. It's kind of nuts.
And then there's this test called Humanity's Last Exam. It sounds pretty ominous, right? Well, it's designed to be nearly impossible for AI to solve. DeepThink scored a 48%. And get this, it did that completely on its own with no help from any external tools. No internet search, nothing. But here it is. This is the number that has absolutely everyone talking. It scored an 84.6 on the Ark AGI 2 benchmark, which is a test specifically designed to measure how close we're getting to real general AI. This number represents a massive, massive jump.
So why is that score such a big deal? Well, here's why. It means that for the first time on this specific benchmark, an AI has officially beaten the average human baseline. It's solving these visual logic puzzles that have historically just stumped AI models. This is a huge piece of the puzzle, and it's why so many people are pointing to this as a major step toward genuine AGI. Okay, benchmarks are one thing, and they're impressive for sure, but let's see how all that raw power actually translates into real-world capabilities. And some of this stuff, it just feels like it's pulled straight out of a science fiction movie.
I mean, just look at this process. You can give DeepThink a simple hand-drawn sketch on a piece of paper. It analyzes it, figures out the complex shape in 3 dimensions, and then spits out a file that's ready to go for a 3D printer. This entire end-to-end task, from a 2D idea to a physical 3D object, is something most models just fall apart on. DeepThink, it just does it.
Now, having what feels like a genius-level engineer on call 24/7 is obviously incredible. But as you can probably guess, that kind of power, well, it doesn't come cheap. So right now, the only way to get your hands on this is through the Google AI Ultra subscription. The introductory price is about $125 for the first 3 months, but after that, it jumps up to $250 a month.
Alright, now for what I think is the most jaw-dropping part of this whole thing. Let's see how DeepThink deals with some insanely complex coding challenges. I'm not just talking about a script. I'm talking about building entire digital worlds from a single prompt. This right here is a perfect illustration of how critical your prompt is. Another developer, Ken, gave it this super descriptive, detailed prompt and got back a surprisingly functional Minecraft clone. I'm talking sound effects for walking on grass, a working inventory, punching, placing blocks, the whole shebang. My prompt was a little less descriptive, and I got a simpler, but still really impressive sandbox game. It just goes to show you, the more detail you feed this model, the more incredible stuff it gives you back. So for the next test, I decided to challenge it to build a fully functional operating system, something that looks and feels like macOS, but running entirely in a web browser. And the result was, honestly, one of the best AI-generated clones I have ever seen. It's the small details that get you. You can double-click the Finder icon and windows actually open. The toolbar at the bottom works,
And the apps like the calculator and notes, they actually function. You can even go into the settings and change the appearance, and it works. It's wild. But this next one, this was my absolute favorite. I gave the model what I thought was an impossible task: code a fully autonomous, vectorized planet ecosystem and do it all inside a single HTML file. And it did it. It built this incredible simulation with thousands of AI-driven plants and animals all interacting with each other and their environment. You can just sit there and watch predator-prey cycles play out in real time, see weather patterns shift, and watch entire ecosystems evolve. The sheer level of complexity that it's juggling here is it's mind-boggling. For the final stress test, I threw a massive challenge at it: build a decentralized power grid simulator. But it didn't just write some code. It designed the entire system's architecture to be resilient, to handle things like cascading failures. We threw simulated heat waves and cyber attacks at it, and we watched it survive. And then, under enough pressure, we saw it degrade and fail realistically, leading to blackouts, just like a real-world power grid would. So, after all that, after the benchmarks, the 3D printing, building entire worlds, let's bring it all back to that huge question we started with. So, what's the verdict? What does this all really mean for the future of AI? Is this the moment things really changed? When you boil it all down, what DeepThink really represents is a new way for AI to think. It can reason its way through these incredibly complex problems from beginning to end. It's not just pattern matching anymore. It's crushing PhD-level challenges, it's setting new records, and right now, there is no doubt in my mind it's the most powerful AI tool available to the public. It really does feel like a new frontier. And that leaves us with one final, kind of terrifying thought. If this is the model that they're releasing to the public, what are they building behind closed doors? What comes next? Because it feels like the pace of this whole thing is accelerating faster than any of